What do you think the culture is like around women playing sport in Australia?
Good and bad, I reckon. Well, within the teams, I think it's really good everyone gets around each other, but like there's definitely a long way to come within everyone else.
I used to play netball, but like transferring to a more male-dominated sport, you do get a lot more like hate as a woman playing footy. Like you get a lot more comments.
A lot of the girls who do boxing with big followings, like if you look through their comment section, some people are just so rude. Like, oh, you look manly, or girls shouldn't be fighting kind of thing. Mostly like that, I've seen a lot of negativity. And I'm sure there is for a lot of like other sports too.
You know what they remind me of? Year 10 girls.
So we're playing in the She Believes Cup.
Oh, she believes in what? It better be men.
We're 12.
Like a lot of people, these comments from Marty Sheargold on national radio made these women pretty angry.
Got any men's sport?
Yeah, I do. Baseball.
His comments were really like heartbreaking, and they're really like kind of almost dehumanising for women in sport, and they're really degrading because like we play the same game, we train as hard.
Not a surprise. I am a bit tired of seeing things like this pop up every so often. You have someone apologise and then it happens a few weeks, months later, and it sort of is this cycle that goes on and on.
Hi Chloe, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
This is Chloe Dalton. She's the founder of the Female Athlete Project. She's also a triple sport athlete, an Olympic gold medalist, and currently a footballer with the GWS Giants.
We just saw it absolutely go viral. The people were flooding into the comment sections, resharing it, tagging the radio station and calling out the behaviour. It was quite incredible, I think, to see the power of people using their collective voices to call out change and say, hey, this is not okay for this to be happening in 2025.
The fact that media professionals are saying this on national broadcast on the radio.
It shows that words matter when you are given a platform like the host of a syndicated radio show.
I'm so sick and tired of this sense of humour.
Even though there was widespread backlash, Chloe says these comments are so harmful because they can reinforce centuries-old ideas about women in sport and can have impacts through the ranks right to grassroots athletes.
There's so many things in sport that historically have told women and girls that they don't necessarily belong and they don't feel welcomed. Not always because of things that have been said to them, but different constructs like not having access to a change room that's made for women and girls, or being told to wear uniform that's meant to fit the boys and the men, or if you're a young girl who has your period, having to wear white shorts when you might feel incredibly anxious about something like that. There might be a young girl or a young woman who might already be struggling. Hearing something like this from a high-profile person on live radio, it can almost reinforce it in a way that affirms what they were already doubting.
In this instance, public outrage led to an apology, and Marty Sheargold, who made the comments, left the radio station.
Being 18 and I've played 4 seasons, like I know what I can do, so I'm more motivated to prove it more that I can do what they say I can't. But like if I was starting off and I was already nervous, hearing that stuff would make me like shy away a bit.
Yeah, just comments like that, you know, can make it really hard to feel seen or want to keep going in a sport that you might be passionate about, just as passionate about as the boys.
According to the United Nations Women Australia, by the age of 14, girls drop out of sports at twice the rate of boys because of a whole bunch of factors like social expectations and attitudes and a lack of investment in facilities and programs.
I experience that a lot when I walk into other gyms for like sparring and I have to spar with boys. They wouldn't acknowledge me when I walked in, they wouldn't shake my hand, nothing. Like they would look at me and be like, oh, just go light, just go light. And then I'd get in there and then I'd start obviously dominating. After they come up to me and they'd be like, oh wow, you're a lot better than I expected. And I was like, yeah, thanks. Like that's usually the story of how it always goes. Like they make me feel uncomfortable. Like they don't have to make it uncomfortable, but by doing that, like it makes it uncomfortable.
But while we've got to the point where there's uproar about the treatment of professional female athletes, girls and women who aren't in the spotlight and who play sport at school, grassroots or semi-professional levels say there are still times where they're used as the punchline, stereotyped or pushed aside.
There's a stigma around women that play footy, women that play any sort of manly sport like soccer, footy, anything like that, anything that's a bit physical.
We're like manly and not like feminine. Especially in a sport like boxing where it's like, usually we do have bigger like arms and all that, and like I feel like I was so insecure about that because like my arms have always been bigger than other girls, and like I'd go tie my hair back and I'd have muscles and I'd feel so like insecure about that. And especially like on social media when you like see people commenting that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, then what do they think of me? Like, you know, that like always goes through like the back of my head. Is just scary, you know.
Kind of just offhanded comments and stuff in a classroom, in a, you know, PE class, on the field. Yeah, just comments like, you know, women's sport isn't at the same level, you know, we might not deserve to play or we don't work as hard.
That we're not like as skilled as the boys or not as like tough or strong, when it's like we put in the same amount of work.
People sort of thinking it's a bit of a piss take and it's a bit of a joke.
But it's not a joke to all the girls that try to prove themselves for a bit of respect, yeah.
In 2023, the Victorian government found almost a third of women who play community sport in Victoria had considered leaving their club due to unequal treatment compared to men. 90% of women said gender inequality is still an issue in sport that needs to be fixed. And 55% of people who play community sport have experienced or seen sexist language and jokes.
As much as you don't want to be a bystander, it really is hard, you know, as a girl to call that stuff out, especially if you're in a minority in that environment. You know, you don't have a sense of humour. You know, there's lots of other comments that are kind of reported back that, oh, you just don't get it, or it's just a joke, don't take it so seriously. And I think you definitely want to call it out, and sometimes you do, but sometimes, you know, you might not feel safe enough to, or if you're by yourself, then it can be a little bit hard, yeah.
There's probably responsibility for boys and men in this instance. Like, it's great if you feel comfortable to call out the behaviour if someone makes a sexist joke or says something misogynistic. I think it's great if you feel comfortable to do that. But I also think sometimes that's a hard thing to do if it's with a group of mates or your teammates. That's a really hard thing to do in the locker room. But I think a really simple way that you can actually address it is maybe someone says a joke and you just don't laugh at the joke. It can be something really passive like that.
But to really make a difference, these athletes say there needs to be better education, and the media, sporting bodies and local clubs all need to step up.
I think real change in these spaces happens when we actually start to see continued increase of coverage in women's sport. We think women's sports coverage has increased from 15% up to 20%, which is great news, but it's still 1/5 and it's not good enough. And then we've got a lot of those structural things like accessible change rooms and young girls and women turning up to clubs and feeling welcomed and feeling like they should be there and having uniform that fits them, that they feel comfortable in, and also having safe reporting pathways for things that might happen that they feel uncomfortable about as well. If you felt like that's something that you've experienced personally, just know that there's a huge community of people around you who believe in the power of sport and the power of women and girls to belong in sport and thrive in sport.
We just ask for a little bit of respect and acknowledgement. Like, we don't want much, we just want to play the game we love without being attacked for it.
Use it as motivation. I feel like that's what I did. Like, when people would make comments and all that, I would just use it as motivation to make me a better athlete.